Dr. Annandale. I teach philosophy at Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Book 4 of Plato's Republic begins with a discussion of what it means for the guardians of the city to be happy, excellent, or flourishing. Adeimantus remarks that the guardians have a very hard life. They must serve the city and give up many pleasures and comforts to do so. Socrates responds that we are not aiming to make any one group of people happy, but to make the whole city happy or excellent. And he gives the analogy of a statue. One does not make the whole statue beautiful by painting the most beautiful part, the eyes, with the most beautiful color, purple. Rather, one treats each part in the way necessary in order to best serve the whole. So the guardians will have to give up some goods for the good of the whole city. Socrates then observes that both great wealth and great poverty can corrupt people, so the guardians should be neither too rich nor too poor. Over the next few pages, Socrates makes several points that are meant to be understood together. First, he argues that wealth is not necessary for a city to be able to defend itself. What is necessary is that the guardians perform their function well, and this is something that they are better able to do if they are not distracted by riches. He then argues that a city, properly understood, must be of a moderate size, and it must be unified. In particular, the city must not be divided between rich and poor, because then there would be not one but two cities. And finally, Socrates again discusses the importance of the guardian's education, which above all must cultivate lawfulness and reason in their souls. What ties all of these points together is the rationality that Socrates believes exists in nature itself. The universe is a rational place, and this rationality can be reflected in the lives of good individuals and good cities. At 427d, Socrates again takes up the question of where exactly justice and injustice are to be found in the city he has just described. To make the city completely good, 4 virtues are required: wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. First reading question. Find the definition of each of these 4 virtues, and the social class in the ideal city that possesses that virtue. Focus especially on the definition of justice in the city and of injustice in the city. At 435a, Socrates moves on from discussing where justice is found in a city to where it is found in an individual. This is the political metaphor, you will remember, where justice in the city can be used to discover the nature of justice in the soul. For this analogy to work, however, the individual must be like the city in the relevant ways. In particular, each individual must have 3 parts to his soul to correspond to the 3 parts of the city. The rest of this book explains what these 3 parts of the soul are and how we are to understand them as parts of a single soul. Socrates emphasizes that this is a very difficult thing to understand. He points out that the same thing will not be willing to do or undergo opposites in the same part of itself, in relation to the same thing at the same time. This is an important and plausible principle. The same thing cannot be 2 different ways at the same time. So, if we are ever tempted to say something like this about our souls, to say, for example, that I am both happy and sad at the same time, then we know that the soul, or the self, must have parts. And if it has parts, then the relationship between those parts, the harmony between the parts, will be crucial. Socrates' theory is that nothing can be, do, or undergo opposites at the same time, in the same respect, in relation to the same thing. At 437b, Socrates lists pairs of opposites that we might apply to the soul: assent and dissent, wanting to have something and rejecting it, taking something and pushing it away, as well as thirst and its opposite, hunger and its opposite, and other appetites and the wish not to have the appetite. These are opposites. He considers the case of thirst in detail. Over the next few pages, he explains that thirst, as an appetite, is always the result of a feeling, whereas the wish not to have a thirst and the overriding of the appetite is always the result of a rational calculation. But if this is true, then we have found at least 2 parts of the soul, because they're having these opposed states at the same time. The third part of the soul is the spirited part, the part that feels pride and shame. This part is crucial in making us fully human. With it, we have a 3-part soul, just like the 3-part city. So your final 2 reading questions. How does Socrates describe the spirited part of the soul? And what is justice in the soul, and how is it like justice in the city? This brings us to the end of Book 4 of Plato's Republic. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.